A lot of people start to learn Power BI getting fascinated by the idea of different kinds of charts and dashboards that can be created in Power BI, but also a lot of them drop the idea when they are introduced to DAX. Therefore, in this video, I'm going to simplify DAX for you within just 1 hour. Hello everyone, welcome to WsCube Tech channel. My name is Ayushi Jain, and guys, in this video we'll be learning about DAX in just 1 hour. We'll be talking about all the important concepts, functions that are important with respect to interviews as well. So without wasting more time, let's get started. Now, before we get started, if you are a data enthusiast and want to get a constant updates on news, podcasts, masterclasses, cheat sheets, notes, or anything which is related to data, then WsCube Tech has recently launched their WhatsApp channel. Be a part of it, and to join it, the link of it is given in our description. Now, let's get started, guys. So here we are going to start with a blank report in Power BI. The link of the data which I'm going to use here in this session is given in our description, so you can download it from there. I have already downloaded the files and added it to a folder. So here, therefore, I'll be choosing the option of folder. Let's click on connect. Once we click on connect, we'll be getting an option to browse. So my data already lies inside a folder. So I'll be just choosing and locating the location of that folder here. Okay. So this is the data set, and the data set contains two files. One is the orders, another one is the products. Let's understand both of them one by one. It's basically a simple data set box. Here, if we add this as a new query, we'll be getting our orders table here. So this is our orders table, which contains the transaction ID, which date the transaction happened, the time has been mentioned, from which store the product was bought, what is the location of the store, what is the product ID that the person has bought, how much quantity this person has bought, and also the payment mode has been given. We can see some blank values in the payment mode. Let's do one thing, because it does not recognize blank values just like that. Let's replace the blank with the null values. So here we'll be having the null values. Okay, let's go back to the Starbucks, and here right click and double tap here. It would be our products table. So let's bring in our products table. So basically what information lacks over here is the information about the product. The product ID has been given, but what is the name of the product, what category it belongs to, what are the details about the product, and what is its unit price, it lies in our products table. Okay. So now the thing is that in the orders table, we do have the quantity, but we need to multiply it with the price in order to get the total revenue, right? So what we'll be doing is we'll be going to the merge queries, and let's bring in the price column in the orders table so that we can calculate the total revenue later. So here, what is common between both of them? The product ID. As it says on the top, that if you want to merge two tables, you need to select the common columns between both of them. So the common column over here is the product ID, which is giving us all the entire match here. And if we open or expand the products table, what do we need? We don't need all of the columns here. We just need the unit price. So let's bring in the unit price over here. So here we have the unit price corresponding to the product that the person has bought. Okay. Now, all I need to do is we have the orders table, we have the products table, we also have this Starbucks table which contains the information about the folders. Let's right click and disable the load for this one, because we don't be needing it for our analysis. We would just be needing our orders in the products table here. So now let's click on close and apply. Let's wait for a couple of seconds, and both the tables, the products and the orders table, they both would be loaded over here. Here we have our orders table, and the other one is the products table. Okay. Now our agenda over here today is to understand DAX. So let's get started with that quickly. First of all, talking about what is DAX. Guys, DAX over here stands for Data Analysis Expressions. It's a formula language of Power BI which allows us to calculate new columns, new measures, or a new table. So if you want to make any calculations, whether you want to create new matrices, new KPIs, you want to find some aggregated value, you want to create new columns in your data, of course, Power Query Editor is there for new columns, but even utilizing DAX, you want to create a new column, then you will be utilizing DAX over here. Okay, so DAX stands for data analysis expressions, and a simple DAX function would something look like this, that you can either create a measure or a column or a table, where a simple function would look like you just have to start by writing the name of the function, you need to write the name of the table, and goes the name of the column. Okay, so basically, let's say if I want to try to find the sum of quantity, so I would be using sum orders table, and here goes our quantity as a column. Okay, so yeah, this is how we would be finding sum of quantity. Okay, now what is the difference between the measure or a column or a table over here? Guys, a measure could be defined as an aggregated value, could be sum of something, count of something, average of something, minimum of something, maximum of something, could be a KPI or a metric as well, like you want to calculate running total, you want to calculate month over month growth, or you want to calculate retention rate, average order value. In that case, you can utilize measures for that. Like when you have been given a table over here, and based on this, inside this table you want to create a new column, like based on transaction date I want to add any particular day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when does this order was placed, I want to understand that which day of the week people are consuming more coffee. So in that case I would be creating a new column. So when you're creating a new column, you would be referring to a new column. When you want to create a new aggregated value, a new KPI or a metric, you will be going to a measure. When you want to create an entire new table, in that case, on the home, there is an option for a new table as well. So here we have a measure, a column or a table. Okay. Now, talking about creating measures. For creating measures, there are two types of measures. First of all, one is the implicit measure, another one would be the explicit. Okay, we don't generally use the implicit ones. Why? Because let's say if I have created a matrix over here, in this matrix, let's also increase the size of the values. Before that, let's put something in here. So I'm dropping, let's say, product category. Okay, let's go to its format visual, and I'm increasing the row header size to 16, column headers to also 16, and also the values to 16. So after increasing the sizes over here, let's go to orders table as well, and let's bring in the transaction quantity. Now, once I bring in the transaction quantity and drop it inside the values, you can already see that we are getting sum of it. So this is implicit measure where we are adding the sum of quantity. But if I want to create an explicit one, what I will have to do is, let's create a new table where we will be keeping track of all our measures. So I'll be creating a new table over here. To create a new table, you can just Control plus, and we'll be saying that table would be is equals to, you can start with the braces here. Okay, for the braces you can also put the blank function, and inside and close the braces here, press enter, and you will be having a blank table. Now inside this blank table we'll be creating quantity. So let's right click, let's create a new measure. In the measure we'll be saying that we need total quantity. So let's call it total underscore quantity. Okay. In the total quantity, we'll be saying that we need the sum of quantity. Quantity lies in our orders table. So let's go to orders table. From here, let's choose transaction quantity, close the bracket, press enter. Let's come back to report view, and let's drop this total quantity here. You can compare and see both the values, that both of them are giving you the correct result and the same result as well. But now what is the difference between an implicit or the explicit one? Why do we have to create a total quantity when we already have sum of total quantity, which we can directly drop as a value and get our output? See, we created this because it was an implicit measure. This is an explicit measure. Implicit is the one which is just created over here when we have dropped the value of quantity, but now we cannot utilize it anywhere else. But if I want to utilize this total quantity in another measure as well, I can now utilize it since it has been created as a value over here. So that's why we go for explicit measures instead of implicit measure. So this is how we have created our first measure, which was based on sum of the value. Let's get rid of the sum of the quantity for now, and this is the total quantity that we have in here. Now guys, before we move forward, if you're someone who is planning to transition their career in data analytics, that WsCube Tech has recently launched their data analytics mentorship program, whose upcoming cohort is going to start soon. In this program, there would be two mentors. One would be industry mentor and the master mentor would be me. So if you want to be a part of this cohort where WsCube Tech will take charge of your placement as well, then the link of this program is given in our description. Check it out now. So you can put it inside a matrix, or you can create a card and drop your total quantity as a value, and here we will have the total quantity. So this is how you can simply find the sum of something. Just like sum of something, you can find the average of something, minimum of something, maximum of something. You just have to put those measures here. Okay. Now talking about count of something, let's try to utilize count as a function. So let's right click and create a new measure. I want to, let's increase the size. Let's count that I want to count the payment mode. Okay. Let's count payment mode. I'll be using the count function over here where we will be choosing payment mode as the name of the column. Let's close the bracket, press enter. Here we'll be having count. Let's get in our another card and let's drop the count of payment in here. Let's go to call out value and make the units to be none. So we can see that the total count of the values is 1,49,103. But are they 1,49,103? Let's try one more measure over here. So I'm going to use another card. Okay. And this time I'll count all the values that are there in the orders table. So I'll be creating a new measure and count orders. Okay. So we'll be using count rows as a function this time and use the table which is the orders table. Close the bracket, press enter. If we drop the count orders as a value and then if we go to the callout value, choose the none as the value, you will now see that there is a difference over here between the value that we have got for the payment mode and the count for the orders table. So what is happening here? Let's understand that. See, when we are talking about count as a function or we are talking about count rows as a function, count over here is counting the values in the particular column, say payment mode. Okay. Say payment mode is there. So it's counting the values. It's counting UPI, it's counting cash, it's counting card. But if you guys also remember, we also had null values over here. So will it count the null value? No, it will not count the null values for us. So if I say that right now, if this is my table, okay, and we have counted the value for payment mode, the payment mode's value would be 3. But the count rows function, as the count rows function asks just for the name of the table over here. It basically counts how many rows are there in the table. So 1 row, 2 row, 3 row and the 4th row, and hence this will give us 4 as a row. So if you want to count how many rows are there in the table, you'll be going for the count rows. But if you want to also count the values and want to ignore the null values, that's where you go for the count function. So count function will count the values for you and will ignore the null values, while if you want to count all the rows from your table, you will be going to the count rows as a function. So that would be the difference between the count of the payment mode and the count of the orders table over here. Let's move forward and discuss a couple more functions. Now guys, we know that in our orders table, let's go to this section. In our orders table, we have been given the quantity and we have been given the unit price. In the quantity, we have the different quantities, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 8 quantity has been given, and then different unit prices have been also given. Now, if I want to calculate revenue, you would say that first of all, do what? Multiply the quantity with price to create a new column of, let's say, sales, and then find the sum of sales. Correct? We will say that you can create a new column over here which will multiply the quantity with the price and then find the sum of it. Instead, I would say don't do this. Optimize this and use the function sumx. Okay, we will be using a function called as sumx. Now, how does sumx works? Here, let's right click and create a new measure. Not a new column, sorry, but a new measure. So let's right click and create a new measure. We'll be saying that we want revenue. My revenue would be what? Here we'll be using sum x. Now see, sum will give you sum of something, right? Sum x asks you for two things. One is the table, another one is the expression. So suppose if my table is the orders table, my expression over here would be what? Quantity multiplied by price. Okay, unit price. Close the bracket. Now what will happen over here in the background? See, once I press enter and bring in a card over here, drop my revenue, this would be the revenue 23.31 million. But what is actually happening in the background? In the background, when the different quantities have been given 2, 1, 3, 2, and the prices are given, let's say 50, 100, 200, and 50 once again, what is happening is, first of all, it's iterating for each of the rows and count and calculating the values of the expression for us. 2 times 50, 100. 100 times 100, 200 times 3, 600, 50 times 200, and then it is finding the sum of them. Okay, that would be 900 for us. So this is how sum x is working, that you have defined a table and then you have given an expression. So first of all, it is calculating the expression for each of the rows, and after calculating the expression for each of the rows, it is finding the sum of the value, which is giving us the result as 900. So this is how sum x work. Okay, just like how we have sum x, we also have count x, we have minimum x, maximum x, or average x as well. So we have different types of aggregations over here. If we understand it in a simple way, if we are talking about the basic aggregation, sum, count, maximum, minimum, average are doing the same work as they do, but here the count does not count the null value. So here exception is null, that does not count the null value. Here if we are talking about aggregation x, that is sum x, okay, count x, max x, minimum x, average x, what they are doing, they are finding the sum, count, maximum, minimum, or average with the help of an expression. This expression could be anything. You want to multiply two things, divide two things, then find the sum of it. You want to subtract two things, then find the sum of it. Add two things, then you want to find the sum of it or count of it. That expression needs to be defined over here, that aggregation, but based on an expression. Okay, so that is what sum or sum x over here would be. Okay, let's move forward, and while we are discussing about count rows, let's also discuss about distinct count. Here we have been given different product category. If we go back over here in our products table, actually, in the products table, we have been given different product category which are repeating as well. I want to know how many total product categories are there. So what I would be doing, I'll be going to a card over here, okay, and let's create a new measure, total product categories. My total product categories would be is equal to distinct count of our table column, which is products tables product category. Let's close the bracket, press enter, total product category. If we drop it over here, it would tell us there are 9 product categories. You can count them from here: bakery, branded, coffee, coffee beans, drinking chocolate, flavors, loose tea, packet chocolate, and tea. These are the different product categories that we have in here. So this is how we are getting product categories. So if you want to count distinct values from somewhere, then you can utilize distinct count here as a function. Okay, so now I'm removing all of these things from here. Okay, and let's go forward towards a little bit of advance. So far we are talking about the aggregations. Let's talk about aggregation with the condition. Okay, right now you can see that we have the revenue which has been given to us, which is if we drop the revenue in here in the card, it is 123.31 million. Okay, what if someone asks me that what is the revenue for coffee? You would say it's simple. You can just use this. You can put a slicer over here. Okay, let's bring in a slicer and let's go to the products table, bring in the product categories and choose coffee from here. So if I choose coffee, the product category, and here the revenue would be 13.29 million. But this is my value. What if someone asks me to calculate this? This is coming through a slicer, but someone needs it not to change and wants just the revenue of coffee. In that case, what I'll be using is our calculate function. Now, what is a calculate function? Let's understand that. Calculate function Calculate function is more like aggregation based on condition. Aggregation based on condition. Okay. How based on condition? If you have learned SQL and let's say if someone says you that select sum of quantity from orders where payment mode is equal to UPI. So this where over here is a condition, correct? For those who know SQL, where over here is a condition. Same goes for calculate. Calculate allows you to find the aggregate value but based on a condition, that you can provide a filter. You can provide a condition over here that I want to find the sum of something but based on a specific condition. I want to find the revenue but the category should be coffee. I want to find the quantity, but the category should be bakery. Okay, so you can give different conditions over here when you are using calculate as a function. You can call it aggregation, but again, a if is used over here. Okay, like for example, sum if is there in Excel. So it allows you to find the sum of something if whatever is the column which goes with our criteria over here. Okay, so same thing applies in here, that let's say I want to find the sum of the revenue, but the condition is that the category should be coffee. So what I'll be doing, I'll be creating a new measure. I'll be saying that revenue of coffee. Okay. And here we'll be saying calculate. What do we need to calculate? The sum, the revenue. Revenue was calculated using quantity multiplied by price. Sum x was used, right? So we can, instead of utilizing that entire expression, we can just use the revenue, because we have created the explicit measures and that's why we have created them, so that we can utilize it at different places. So we'll be calculating the revenue, but the condition is that our product category over here should be what? Coffee. So we'll be writing coffee, close the double quotes, close the bracket, press enter. Let's bring in our card over here. Let's drop the revenue of coffee. And how much it is? The same value which we are getting from the slicer. If I remove the slicer, this one would change, but this one would still remain 13.29 million, giving us the revenue of coffee here. So this is how you can define calculate function. Calculate allows you to calculate sum of something, count on something, maximum of something, minimum of something, but based on any particular criteria. Say, if someone asks me that they want to know how many times a person has bought tea as a product category. Okay, so transaction based on tea. Okay, let's not go for quantity, but let's go for count of transaction IDs when it is tea as a category. So here we'll be saying that T transactions. Let's call it T transactions. T transactions we'll be saying calculate. What do we want to calculate? Our expression over here is that we want to count the transaction ID. Okay, where what is our filter? That our product category should be equal to T. Okay, close the bracket, press enter. Let's bring in a card over here and let's bring in our tree transaction, which is 26,000 over here. Okay, so here we have T transactions of 26,000. This is how you can utilize calculate function. The calculate function allows you to calculate any of the aggregation but based on a condition. Okay, just like we have calculate function, we have another function which is filter function. Filter function does not gives you an aggregated value. So far, whatever we have talked about, okay, let's also create three distinctions over here, that we are talking about three things. One is measures, one is columns, and the another one is tables. Okay, when we use the braces and the blank function, it's basically it created a blank table for us. When we use sum or sum x or calculate or count rows or distinct count, these are basically creating measures for us. Okay, we'll also be seeing the distinction between the others too, like we'll be seeing some of the functions that might be coming in the category of columns, more functions in the category of tables. Let's also understand that now we are going to talk about a filter function which basically creates a table for us. Some functions create measures, some functions create columns, some functions create tables. So filter here creates a table for us. So for filter here, let's see how filter function works. So for filter, I'll be creating not a new measure, but we'll be creating a new table. Filter function basically creates a new table for you. But for a filter function to work, we need to give a condition. For example, what condition could it be? Let's say someone asks me to create all the transactions, but where the payment mode is UPI. Only the payment mode is UPI. Okay, so I'll be creating a UPI table. Okay, which is nothing but a filter function of which table? Orders table. What is the filter over here? The filter is that where the payment mode is equal to UPI. Close the bracket, press enter, and here you will notice that if I click on the payment mode, it will just show me UPI. So basically, from the orders table, we have filtered the data where the payment mode is UPI. So filter is creating a table for us where the payment mode is UPI. This is how we can utilize filter function. Okay, filter creates a table for us. Calculate creates a single aggregated value for us. So these things are something that is important and we need to remember them. Okay, let's move forward and understand a couple more things. Okay, so here I'm creating a new page and creating a matrix over here. In this matrix, I'll be using, you can use anything, whatever you want. Let's say I'm going to use in our orders table, what do we have? We have store location. Let's drop the store location here. Let's increase the font size. Okay. So here we have been given the store location. Let's drop the revenue. So we don't need this UPI table although now. So if you want, you can get rid of it. Okay, it was just to explain you the filter function. So let's bring in our revenue that we have revenue from Connaught Circle, IGI Airport and Paschim Vihar. Okay, since it's revenue, let's also click on this measure and convert it in the format of currency. It's in Indian currency. So I'll be choosing Indian currency from here. Yeah. So here we have the currency. Now we have store location, we have revenue. Let's try to understand three important functions here, that is all selected and Allexcept. All selected or Allexcept are used to apply or remove filters from our data. Okay. How? Let's also understand that. Here we have been given the store location and we have been given the revenues. Okay. Let's bring some slicers over here. So I'll be, okay, not this one, but I'll be bringing some slicers. So this is my slicer. Let's create another slicer and let's create another slicer. Okay. One would be based on the same location itself. So let's drop in the store location in the first one. Okay, which is Connaught Circle, IGI Airport and also Paschim Vihar. Here in the second one, let's go to maybe orders table, payment mode. Okay, and in the third one, we'll be keeping, let's say, from our products table, the product category. Okay, so here we have all these things. All right, three slicers have also been introduced. Now let's understand these three functions, all selected and Allexcept. Another three types of a function which are often asked in the interview. Let's understand the difference between them. First of all, I'll be creating all over here. So let's write it as all. I'll be using calculate as a function where we say that revenue, but here I'll be using all as a function. Okay, in the all we'll be using store location. Okay, and close this, close the main bracket to press enter. Let's see what will happen if I drop this over here. You will now notice that what is happening, it's removing any filter which is on visual level or it is coming from outside level from our filter over here. You can see that my data is not getting filtered based on Connaught Circle, IGI Airport and Paschim Vihar. If we check for the revenue, for revenue we're getting 4 crores 28 lakhs 26,203 as a value. Here also we are getting a different value, but when we have used all as a function, what it is doing, it's not allowing any filter of store location to be applied whether it is from a filter or whether it is from the visual itself. Okay. This is what all is doing to our data. Okay, what about UPI? If I choose UPI, is it changing the value of UPI? Yes, it's changing the value of UPI, that UPI is giving us a total revenue of 4 crores 10 lakh. But is it changing on the visual level? No. Okay, so it's not accepting any filter which is coming from the store location, whether it is on visual level, whether it is coming from outside. Okay, let's talk about all selected. Here, let's right click, let's create a new measure, and I'll be saying all selected. Okay, we'll say again the calculate function where we are calculating the revenue, but this time we are using all selected over the same thing, location, store location. Let's close this, let's close another bracket too, and let's bring in all selected. All selected is doing the same thing that all is doing, is it? It is. But what if I choose Paschim Bihar? It's now giving me the revenue of Paschim Bihar. What if I choose IGI airport as well? That means 2 of the values. So now it's giving me the value of 2 of them, but not giving us the total value. So now what this is doing? See, here, let's understand this with the textual context, that we are talking about all selected, and all except. Okay. All is removing filter from visual and slicer. Okay. So if we have store location given, okay, if we have store location given over here, it's not allowing the data to be filtered based on store location, whether it is on visual level or whether it is coming from a slicer too. Okay, so it's not allowing it to filter. What all selected is doing, it's also removing the filter, but only from visual. It is accepting a filter from outside. You can see when we are here, when we are choosing Paschim Bihar, are we getting the revenue of Paschim Bihar? We are getting the revenue of Paschim Bihar. When we are choosing IGI airport, what we are getting? We are getting the cumulative revenue of Paschim Bihar and IGI airport, but on the basis of visual level, that Connaught Circle is different or IGI airport is different. On the basis of visual level, we are not getting the distinction. So all removes any filter which is on visual or the outside level. All selected removes filter only from the visual level, accepts the filter which is coming from outside. All except at the same time is actually the opposite. Here, if I write new measure and I'll say all except, will go and calculate the revenue again. And here we'll be using all except as a function which is asking you for 2 things. Number 1 is the, let's say we want to go for the products table, and in the products table, let's say we are choosing anything, maybe product category. Okay, close this and press enter. So now what would happen? If I choose bakery, okay, let me drop the all except as well over here. So all except is giving us the same value as the revenue is giving us, because it's accepting any filter from the store location. Is it accepting the filter from UPI? It's accepting the filter from UPI. Okay. What about category? If I choose bakery, am I getting different values? Yes, we are getting different values. What about branded? Am I getting different values over here? We are getting different values. What about coffee? We are getting 3 different values here too. But what if I have slicer, let's have another slicer, okay? I have created another slicer which is of any other column from the products table except for the category. So let's bring maybe product type, okay? If I choose biscotti, am I getting the value of biscotti? No, I'm not getting the value of biscotti over here. If I choose clothing, am I getting the value of clothing? No, we are not getting the value of clothing over here. See, that is what is happening, that all except over here, okay, all except is rejecting all the filter except for the product category from the products table. All except is rejecting all the filters, as we have mentioned over here, that reject all the filters except for the product category. Only accept the filters from the product category and reject all the other filters. So that is what Allexcept is doing for us. So here we have three things. One is all, second is Allselected, third one is Allexcepts. Okay, so if I write it down, Allexcepts rejects all the filters from the defined table except the mentioned column. Okay, so this is the difference between the all selected and Allexcept. Their major task does not comes with creating a column, creating a table, or creating a measure. Their major task comes with removing or rejecting the filters which are on the visual level or a slicer level, or just on the visual level, or if you want to reject all the filters from a table but want to just keep one column's filter, then you can utilize Allexcept there. Now, what is the use of them? See, let me show you the use case of them. If I go and create a chart over here, where let's say this is my chart, and if I put the product category, okay, or let's go for store location because we have used all for the store location. So let's drop in the store locations over here. So if I have store location in y-axis, if I drop the revenue in x-axis, this is how my revenue, where is our x-axis? Yeah. So this is how our revenue would look like. Okay. Here I'm using a clustered bar chart. So if I drop, let's say, all function as well over here, you would notice that now we can compare the Connaught Circles revenue with the total revenue, the IGI Airports revenue with the total revenue, and Paschim Vihar's revenue with the total revenue. So we can now compare the total revenues with the respective categories over here. Okay. Let's move forward and talk about calculating a further more advanced things here. So something that is really very common is calculate a running total. Here, let's utilize date. Let's go to the orders table, and here we'll be dropping the transaction date. Let's convert this transaction date to just the date format, and I'll also apply the same format painter to this one so that the size becomes similar. So here we have been given the transaction date. Let's go to table and let's drop in our revenue. So here we have our revenue which has been collected on different days of the year. Now here, let's say I want to calculate the running total. How do I calculate the running total? Let's understand that. To calculate the running total, let's create a new measure. First of all, let's create the measure and write our values, and then we'll be understanding it. So we are calculating running total. Okay. What is running total? Let's also understand that. Running total means that, let's say, if on different days, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th of January has been mentioned. On this, we collected 100 rupees. This we collected 200. Here we collected 300. Next, we collected 250 rupees. And then we collected 340 rupees. Okay. So running total would give me that by 1, we have collected a total revenue of 100. By 2, we have collected a total revenue of 300. By 3, we have collected a total revenue of 600. So basically what is happening over here is nothing, but every time when we are saying 1, it's getting us the sum of till 1. When we are saying 2, it is getting us the sum of revenue of 1 and 2. When we are saying 3, it's getting us the sum of revenue of 1, 2 and 3. When we are saying 4, it's getting us the sum of 1, 2, 3 and 4. Every time you can see the window is increasing. So when we are saying 1, it's 100. When we are saying 2, it's basically sum of both of them. When we are saying 3, it's basically the sum of revenue on 1, 2 and 3. So if I want to get this over here, what I'll be doing, I'll be saying calculate my revenue. But how would I implement that every time keep adding one day? What I want is that if we are on 6th of January, all the dates which are smaller than 6th of January, I want the sum of revenue of all those dates. If I'm on 12th of January, all the dates which are less than equal to 12th of January, I want the sum of revenue of all of them. So here we'll be utilizing two functions together. One is the calculate function, another one is the filter function. Calculate will calculate the revenue and filter will get us all the dates. How? we'll say that we'll be utilizing filter on what table? Orders table. Okay, what is my filter expression over here is that my ordered transaction date, basically transaction date should be smaller than equal to maximum of transaction date. Okay, and if I do this, close this, and close this too, press enter. Now if I bring this running total and drop in over here, what we would notice, it's the same value of revenue. There's no difference. It's the same value which is coming for revenue, yes. But what if on the orders table, if I just introduce all as a function? Okay, now let's press enter. You would now notice that something changed over here. Now it's giving me the running total, that 4 lakh plus 3 lakh would be 8 lakh 29,000. 4 lakh plus 3 lakh plus 4 lakh would be 12 lakh 77,750. So now we are basically getting the running total, and if I go to any specific day, that by 1st May 2003 we have collected a revenue of total 6 crores 74 lakh 67,128 over here. Okay. Similarly, if I go to, let's say, 27th June 2023, till now we have collected a revenue of 12 crores 8 lakhs 34,140. So this is how we can calculate the amount of revenue we have collected on any of the day by using running total. But how did it work? What happened over here? Why we have utilized all? How is this filter function working? See, what filter is doing in the background, let's understand that. As I told you, filter function is used to create a table. Filter is used to create a table. So when we are saying that our transaction date, okay, should be smaller than equal to maximum of transaction date, this basically is saying that, suppose if we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So when we are saying, let's say for 4th, okay, when we are saying 4th is my date, so maximum date is 4, and all the dates which are smaller than equal to 4 will be coming in the filter table. 1, 2, 3, 4, along with the revenue, say 100, 200, 300 and 400. And calculate over here is calculating the revenue on these 4 dates. So basically when we are on 5, in the background it's creating a filter table for us of all the dates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along with their revenue, and calculate is calculating the revenue. So on each of the date, it is iterating. It's going to each of the date, creating a table in the background which contains all the dates which are smaller than equal to maximum of the date, and is calculating the revenue on those specific dates. That's how we are getting the running totals over here. Not here, but here. Yeah. So here we are getting the running total. We have running total. We also have YTD or MTDs as well. Here in our case, we can utilize MTD. MTD is what? MTD basically refreshes your running totals monthly basis. How? Very simple. You don't have to do much. There's a direct formula for this. You can go to MTD and say that we want to use total MTD on our revenue, and our date is transaction date. So this is our date. Let's close the bracket, press enter. It's not UPI's transaction date, but orders transaction date. So transaction date in the orders table. That's why I told you to get rid of this UPI table, which we just created just to see that filter function. Okay. And if we do this, press enter. And if we drop this MTD over here, it's giving us the same value as running total. But what would happen as soon as the February will start? On February, it's again refreshing to 0, and my revenue is set to 4,47,000. When it comes to March over here, the revenue is setting to 0, and and it's starting with 5,08,000 here. Again, it is setting to 0, and in April, we are getting 6,18,000 here. So that's how MTD is also changing here. So this is how we have calculated MTD. Just like MTD, we have total YTD, total quarter to date as well, where quarterly the revenue refreshes. Okay, so these are something that can be asked in interviews and can be helpful. This basically running total is a combination of calculate and filter function. Why we have used all over here is because we wanted to remove visual level of filters over here. The visual level of filters were impacting the running total, which was filtering the running total. We do not wanted the visual level of filters to be impacted. Therefore, we have utilized all over here. Okay. So this is our running totals and MTDs. So these are some of the important measures we have covered. Let's also look at some of the functions which are related to columns as well. So here, guys, we know we are on the orders table. Here, if based on transaction date, you want to extract maybe a month over here, you can just go to new column and write month. Month would be is equals to just the month function needs to be used here, and transaction date needs to be given, and let's close the bracket, press enter. Here it will give us the month number. But what if I need the name of the month? Well, let's create another new column and write month name. My month name would be equal to, here we'll be using format function where we'll be providing the transaction date and the formatting as M, M, M and M. 4 times if you'll write M, it will give you the full name of the month. Similarly, if I create again the day name over here, like I want to extract the name of the day, in that case again we can utilize the format function and the transaction date would be given over here, and then you can give D, D, D and D. Could be small cases, could be upper cases as well. Press enter and you'll be getting Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Mondays and Fridays, like the different days of the week over here. Okay. Similarly, one important another column function over here would be switch function. Okay, let's utilize a new column. Okay, how does switch work? It works like a if condition only. Okay, so let's get day of week. Okay, although we directly have a formula for this, but still I'll be utilizing switch function over here, where my expression would be day name. Okay, so orders day name, where if the orders day name is equal to, you can press enter over here so that you can get into the next line and say that if it's Monday, you want to create 1 as a value. Second value is you can just, okay, sorry, I pressed entered by mistake. So second value would be Tuesday, that if it is Tuesday, in that case write 2, comma, if it is Wednesday, then you can write 3 as a value. If it's Thursday, then you can write 4 as a value. If it's Friday, for Saturday we'll be writing 6. And lastly, for our Sunday, we'll be writing 7 as a value. Close this, press enter, and you will see that based on the days, the number has been assigned over here. So works kind of very much similar to if condition, but like in if you have to write if over and over again along with the conditions. Here in the switch, you just need to define the name of the column and you can define the value result, and that it is that simple. So switch can also be utilized over here when you want to give conditions based on a column's value, column specific value. It works just like how if condition works, but gives us results over here in a more of a way that might does not include much of the errors. So the chances of errors while writing a huge condition over here reduces a lot when you're using switch instead of if condition. So these are some of the functions which can be utilized as a column. To sum it up, we have discussed quite a many things over here. Okay. So if you guys remember, we created this small table over here, okay, which would allow us to distinguish between the different types of measures that we have learned today. Okay. So here, if I include more things, so in the case of columns, here we have also learned about month, format, and just like month is there, similarly year or quarter, or if you want to extract anything else from the date or time, you can extract easily, right? Switch is also being included over here. Okay, just like switch is used, you can use if conditions too. All right, In the measures, we have talked about distinct count, we have talked about calculate count rows, sum x, we have talked about a filter function as well in case of tables. We have also talked about YTD, MTD as well. These are some of the time intelligence functions to calculate the running totals, but also which refreshes on yearly or the monthly basis. Okay, so these are some of the important functions that are there in Power BI in DAX, but also these are like 70-80% of them. There are more of them, but generally the combination of them can solve a lot of problems for you. So yeah, hopefully these functions that we have covered today are clear to you and you have no doubts and no questions. Do drop it in the comments any of your favorite functions of DAX. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next session. Stay tuned, everyone.